Welcome to the Westport Library. Today's program will begin momentarily. Supported by Verso Studios, created locally and shared with the world.
Hello, hello, hello. Hey, everybody by the bar. Jay Norris, great to see you. Love for everybody to grab a seat. All right, we'll get going. Hey everyone, welcome, and welcome back. My name is Cliff Serlin. I have the honor of being the president of StartUp Westport. It's great to be back here after what was hopefully an enjoyable summer for everyone back here at our beautiful library. We have an action-packed evening ahead of us, but before we turn it over to Peter Propp and Jen Gorin, I wanted to highlight some recent developments here at StartUp Westport and talk a little bit more about our upcoming fall schedule. We are so excited about the growth that we've experienced here at StartUp Westport. I mean, look around. It's another, packed house. Thank you all for coming. Really appreciate it. So what started out as a rather simple idea has grown into an ever-expanding organization that continues to deliver on our promise to support the local tech and innovation ecosystem here in Westport. This summer, we were formally approved as a 501c3, so that's exciting. Thank you to Mike Minahan, who I don't think I saw him, but helped us gain that status. So, upcoming events. I'm excited to announce our next tentpole event, which will be here at the Westport Library on Monday, November 25th. So we always remind you, pull out your phone, mark down the 25th for the Staples Innovators Forum. So some background on the event. We have an amazing computer science program here at Staples. Everyone knows about it, but what most people don't know is that over the past few years, the computer science program is responsible for graduating a series of exceptional entrepreneurs who have created game-changing technologies and startup businesses that are altering the competitive landscape. So here's the kicker. Not only have each of these companies raised tens of millions of dollars, but each one of the founders is under the age of 25 years old. So I'll say that again, tens of millions of dollars and that have been raised, and these groundbreaking technologies, and each of the founders is under the age of 25. They all graduated from Staples. Believe it or not, all four of the panelists that'll be here were in the same computer science class. So if you can imagine, just the impact that these kids are making out in the world and representing Westport and Staples is phenomenal. So on the 25th, we're going to welcome back Dylan Diamond, the co-founder of Saffron Technologies. Saffron Technologies is the app that all the kids at Staples use to kind of coordinate classes and see who else is in class with them. And I read a figure on Saffron. I think there's something like 25 or 30,000 high schools around the country, and 18,000 are currently using Saffron Technologies. This past summer, I think it was like mid-April, when you went to the App Store, there was Facebook, there was Instagram, and then there was Saffron Technologies as the top apps in the App Store, followed by TikTok and probably Snap or something like that. So just incredible. We'll also have Max Hamer, Josh Carroll, founders of CrowdVault, and Jack Sharkey, the co-founder of Whoop. We're gonna celebrate their success. Molly O'Shea, who's also a recent graduate of Staples and is a leading venture capitalist and reporter, will be the moderator for the panel. So excited to see you all here for that event. Next up, wanted to mention that we've launched our special interest groups. We refer to them as SIGs. So we now have 3 SIGs that are up and running. Marketing, which is led by Peter Propp, Kelly Genova, and Mike Kalman. Cybersecurity, which is led by Mark Frankel, and artificial intelligence, which is led by Dan Bickel and Mike Guadarrama. So each of these SIGs is an opportunity for people to dive in deep into a certain subject matter. So if you're a domain expert, or if you just want to engage in any one of these subject matters, please sign up for the SIGs. Also, if anyone out there wants to start a SIG, please contact us because we'd love to expand our offering. Okay, now I want to turn our attention to something that is really special that's happening here at StartUp Westport. It's our mentorship program. And not sure how many of you were here for Booked for the Evening, but it was an incredible night. We had Billie Jean King here to talk about her amazing journey. And we also had Chrissy Everett, who attended the event. And it was fascinating to hear Chrissy speak about her relationship with Billie Jean. So it turns out that Billie Jean was one of Chrissy's mentors. And Chrissy spoke about the importance that Billie Jean played in helping welcome her to the WTA. And then, as she became this global phenom, Billie Jean was there to kind of help her through that process. And so as I was listening to these 2 incredible women speak about their respective careers, I couldn't help but realize how important mentorship is at every level. Not just the entry level, but even at the level of extreme excellence. And it's so important to help support the next generation of leaders. And so, which kind of brings me around to why we're so excited and proud of what we've done with the Westport Mentorship Program. In our own special way, we're making magic happen right here, right now in Westport on a one-to-one level. All of the credit for our wonderful, wonderful mentorship program goes to the husband and wife team, Noah and Susan Fenn. So tonight, I've asked Noah to speak a bit more about the mentorship program. So please welcome to the stage Noah Fenn, who's going to talk about the magic.
All right, I'm going to get some slides up on the screen. Just bear with me for a second. All right. Can we switch over to the computer, please? There we go. Perfect. All righty. So thank you, Cliff, for that introduction. And thank you, everyone, for being here today. So my name is Noah Fenn. I co-lead our mentorship program with my wife, Susan Fenn. She does most of the work, for real. She's traveling this week. Wish she could be here with us, but anyway, she's a really important part of this program. As Cliff mentioned in his opening remarks, Startup Westport is focused on enabling and activating tech and entrepreneurship here in Westport and surrounding communities. And our mentorship program, hold on one second here. Come on, baby. Can't skip slides here. Jen, can you give me a hand here? All right, I'll keep going here. So our mentorship program puts that into practice. Essentially, what we do is we are focused on nurturing the next wave of entrepreneurs in Westport and surrounding communities, fostering local collaboration, and bridging the opportunity gap for historically marginalized groups. We started our mentorship journey back in January. That was when we made the announcement. We kicked it off in April, and I'm really happy to share that we actually have more than 215 people registered for our program, which is a huge accomplishment. It really speaks to the power of the community coming together. We have, thank you. We have 68 members participating in our one-on-one mentorship cohort that's going on right now. This is cohort number 2. And the program's progressing really quickly. And this is really thanks to the generosity of our mentors and the proactivity of our mentees. Can't say enough about that. So mentorship comes in many different forms. And so we've created many different flavors for the program. If you start at the bottom here, you see we have a leadership series, and these are large group events with fireside chats, and we have industry leaders that speak. A couple of examples of that would be, as an example, a diverse entrepreneurs event in partnership with Jay Norris and the Westport 10. We also did a female funders and founders event, which was just fantastic. That middle layer is kind of that hybrid between that one-on-one mentorship and those large group events, and we're calling them mentorship circles. So we've done 3 of them already, and I'm gonna go into that in a moment. But essentially, these are mid-size or small group sessions that are focused on skill development. It's typically 1 or 2 mentors with about 5 to 25 mentees. We've actually seen about 30 or so mentees show up to our last 3 events. And finally, one-to-one mentorship. These are individual mentorships, typically 4 to 6 months, and it's focused on individual needs and professional goals. So in terms of the mentorship circles, the 3 that we've had so far were around leadership, social media, content strategy, and marketing, and building the brand story. We've had industry experts, true leaders in the space, talk to these mid-sized groups about and essentially sharing the wisdom that they have. And these were great events. We have many upcoming mentorship circles coming on over the next bunch of months. We're launching these every single month with the exception of December and August. Those are a little bit harder for people to show up, but definitely sign up for our mentorship program if you're interested. We have upcoming in October, one on fundraising. Then we have building and presenting a business plan. We have business models and the product market fit, a legal 101 boot camp, kind of a startup kit, as well as a nonprofit formation process, mentorship circle. And when you think about mentorship, essentially the heartbeat of our program are these one-to-one mentorships. These mentorships are important because it allows someone with a ton of knowledge to impart that knowledge, to give someone that nudge that they need to move in the direction, to really take on the responsibilities that they're looking to do or to gain that skill. And something that's really interesting is that a lot of our mentees are not what you would initially think. A lot of our mentees are actually people who were previously or are currently a mentor, but they've started in a new profession and they've decided that they actually wanted to learn a new skill. So they're part of this program as well. Dan Wu wrote about this program, and he talked about the impact of these one-to-one mentorships from our first cohort. And Barry Schrager, who's seen in the picture on the left, she's a current mentee, and her mentorship journey with Calamine represents a great case study. So I'd love to bring Barry up on stage to share more about her mentorship experience. Barry?
Thank you so much, Noah. It's great to see you all here tonight. I actually grew up in Westport. I went to Bedford Middle School and Staples High School, both while they were under construction, so I don't know if that dates me at all. But as an adult, it's just so special to be back and really engaging with this community as a hub for innovation and incubation and real-world beta testing. My advertising career was really at corporate publishing houses like Viacom and Time Inc. and Condé Nast, and those are really extremely structured environments. So starting my own business without really any existing framework felt like this huge leap of faith. And I'm just so grateful to StartUp Westport and to the mentorship program, and specifically my mentor, Calamine, for really providing that support and guidance and friendship to help me accomplish those sort of early stage founder milestones. And so I'm excited to share that we've recently launched a beta proof of concept right here in town. Our business, GOM, is focusing on addressing the marketing challenges in the liquor retail industry. So while point of sale marketing continues to evolve at large with retail and retail media, liquor store retail experiences, because of regulation and fragmentation, have really remained transactional, right? So infinite shelves of bottles, marketing is sparse in terms of store events and tastings, and really unengaging when you think about the flat promotional signage and faded cardboard cutouts that you typically see in stores. And so with Go Media, we're really bringing digital out-of-home content and connection to inspire that store experience with real-time relevant content, localized store communications, and then of course, supplier advertising. And this is all geared towards driving business outcomes, right? So business outcomes for the retailer in terms of driving sales lift, really being able to provide a better customer experience and foster that shopper connection. And then, of course, product discovery for advertisers. So on the screen here is actually our beta prototype that's live at a local Westport store, Kindred Wine and Spirits. And I love how this community thread just continues. The manager of Kindred actually grew up in Westport as well. So with this beta, we're capturing customer and sales data to really validate our assumptions. And that's assumptions of sales lift and engagement. And we've actually already seen a 50% sales lift for one of our beta advertisers. So we're thrilled with this progress, and we're really looking forward to seeing the full beta results. So please stop by, support your local liquor store, pick up one of the products that you see advertised on the screen. But equally as important, please sign up for the mentorship program. I just cannot recommend it enough. It has been such a valuable resource and really a great way to connect with fellow entrepreneurs in town. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Barry. So as you've seen, our mentorship program is here for our community. So if you're interested in participating in the mentorship program, just know it is free for all participants. It's open to everybody, and it is growing, and we would love to have you participate. If you are interested, please take out your phones and scan this code, or you can just go to startupwestport.org/mentorship and sign up today. You can sign up to be a mentor, a mentee, or simply to be on the newsletter to know when mentorship circles are happening, or just to be kept up to speed on what's going on. Thank you so much.
All right, well, amazing. Thank you both so much. Really impressive. Appreciate all you're doing. I wish Susan was here, but she'll see it taped. So before we kick off tonight's main event, just a couple of thank yous. First to our celebrity bartenders, Brian Power, Matt DiMartino. Great job, guys. Thank you so much. Also to our main sponsor, HSS. Sean, thank you so much. Sean has tumblers for anybody who's interested. Please stop by, and at our next event, we'll hear a bit more about HSS plans here in Westport. And then also always a thank you to the Westport Library, the whole team. Thank you guys for all that you do. All right, and now for the main event, Peter Propp will lead us. Thanks, Peter.
Thanks, Cliff, and welcome, everybody. That's awesome. And I do want to, first off, mention that HSS is now actually open in Westport. So they opened a branch on the Post Road, 276 Post Road West. We'll be hearing more about them in the years to come, or the weeks to come, or months to come. But we're thrilled that they were our initial gold sponsor. And we're delighted to support them, and we appreciate their financial support. And we're talking about some programming ideas in the future as well. I really want to thank our friends at Impact Growth Partners and Grounded World, two B Corps that are based here in Westport. And Jen, Phil, and Heidi, who you'll meet, I've been thinking a lot about how to tell the B Corp story, and I know we'll get a lot out of it. I do want to let you in on a little secret of how we've been able to put such great programming together for Startup Westport, which is we've got really smart friends. And so well, I think it was early August, I was trying to figure out what to put on for September, and then I just realized that it would be so much better if we could do something with a group that actually has a topic, a theme, and a lot of people they could talk about. So I reached out to Jen, and that's how this program came about. So if you have a great idea for a theme, for a topic for Startup Westport, please feel free to reach out. I'd like to briefly introduce Jen, our host for the program. We met 10 plus years ago, and we've always enjoyed seeing each other around town as we've raised our kids and participated in many of the same activities here in Westport. Credential-wise, Jen has a BA and an MBA from Harvard, and has a successful finance career with Credit Suisse and others. And then a few years back, she began to explore the B Corp world, and she launched Impact Growth Partners, Growth Impact Partners, I'm sorry, and really has become a force for the B Corp movement around the state. She's an active investor with her husband, Matt, and is also involved in a lot of really exciting initiatives around the state. So please join me in giving a warm round of applause to our host, Jen Gorin.
Just get the right slides up here. Okay. Thank you, Peter. Thank you, Startup Westport, Cliff, everyone, the library, everyone involved. And for all of you for coming here tonight to talk about sustainable success. You may have noticed that this might not be the exact type of sustainable success that you might have had in mind if you came here just to talk about environmental sustainability. I mean, there are plastic water bottles, which is my bad. I wasn't on top of kind of managing the event to make sure that it was sustainable. But the way I think about sustainability, and really what we're going to be addressing tonight, is not just environmental sustainability. It's running a business that achieves long-term success by taking into consideration all stakeholders, workers, the environment, the community, your customers, and having an impact that goes hand in hand with profitability. And both B Corp certification and benefit corporation status provide frameworks that support achieving this sustainable success. One of them's operational, one of them's legal. And we have an amazing panel here today that I'm going to introduce in just a few minutes, but I am going to spend some kind of boring time talking about the difference between a certified B Corp and a benefit corporation, because the terms are used interchangeably often, and they're very different, though related. So bear with me while I give you this little tutorial. So a certified B Corp is this logo you see. Companies that have B Corp certification get this logo. If you haven't seen it before, I'm sure you will start to notice it now. It's all around town, a lot of products at Whole Foods. And what this is, it's a certification that is to business, to the whole business, kind of like what fair trade is to coffee or LEED is to a building, or I say organic is to an apple. And B Corp certification evaluates a company's operations across its governance, the community, how it treats its workers, its impact on the environment, and its impact on its customers. So it's a really holistic evaluation of a company. Now, certified B Corp is a global movement that's it's run by a nonprofit called B Lab. And any for-profit company in any industry, almost anywhere in the world, of almost any size and with any legal designation, can pursue B Corp certification. So really all you have to do is be a for-profit company. And then you're evaluated and you need to meet these high standards of social and environmental impact, and you also need to make a legal commitment to consider all stakeholders. And once you're certified, you join a global community of certified B Corps, and you can use that logo on your packaging and marketing. Now, a benefit corporation, to contrast, is just a corporate form, just like being a C Corp. And it's structured the same way. It's taxed the same way as a C Corp. You have this, you can restructure your capital stack the same way and raise money in the same manner. But the only difference is it has a legal protection and permission to consider the company's impact on other stakeholders and not just shareholders. And benefit corporation status is available in over 40 states in the US, and the requirements vary by state. So I'm not going to go into a lot of detail on how to become a benefit corporation. It's really when you work with your lawyer and you incorporate as a benefit corporation, and there are certain requirements you need to meet. Now in Delaware, it's very straightforward. You may see companies that are PBCs, that stands for Public Benefit Corporation. It's only a 51% shareholder vote is required to become a public benefit corporation. And other than declaring a specific public benefit, you need to report on that every other year to your shareholders. So it's not super onerous. To contrast that with Connecticut, you need 2/3 approval to become a public benefit, to become a benefit corporation. The nomenclature is slightly different. And you need to have a third party evaluate the impact you're having and report more often. So it's a little more rigorous in Connecticut. And to contrast with certified B Corps, there are over 200 benefit corporations in Connecticut. So you can become a benefit corporation and incorporate that way, regardless of trying to pursue certified B Corp status. And there's about 33 certified B Corps in Connecticut. So I hope that's clear. And the one more thing I need to point out is that there is some overlap. A corporation, so an LLC, so my company, for example, is a single member LLC. In order for, once I got through the operational evaluation for B Corp certification, I had to amend my operating documents to reflect language from B Lab. Had I been a corporation or a company that's a corporation already, does have to become a benefit corporation to become a certified B Corp. So I'm sure there are questions about that. You can reach out to me or anyone if you, on my team who I'll introduce later if you do have questions. So in order to become a B Corp, you have to go through this really detailed evaluation and get an impact assessment score of over 80 out of potential 200 points. It's a lot of work. And as I said, you have to adopt this legal framework, and then you have to make your assessment or a summary of your assessment results transparent on the B Lab website. I do have to mention, and I'm not going to spend much time on this, but that process I just went through is actually changing over the next couple of years. B Lab has been working on reworking their certification profile and requirements from being the score of 80 points over a number of areas to meeting certain minimum thresholds in fewer key areas. So there's a lot more information where this came from. It is important to know, but if you are interested in certification, you still can certify under the regular standards where you just have to achieve 80 points across 5 different categories. So the biggest difference between a certified B Corp and a benefit corporation is once you're a certified B Corp, you get this huge community with you. 8,000 certified B Corps globally, 2,500 in the US and Canada. And as I said, it can be over any industry in almost any country, and the size can be from a startup to a multinational. The process is different depending on your size. And all of these companies have one unifying goal: to use business as a force for good and to, as I described it, have sustainable success that has a positive impact on all their stakeholders. So these are some of the companies that you would be in company with if you became certified B Corp. And you may recognize, you probably recognize most of these. You see Eileen Fisher and formerly Patagonia and Athleta in town. A lot of these products you'll see sold at your local grocery store. These are some of the more well-known ones. And as I said, there's 2,500 in the US, which it's been growing a lot, but that's still just a very tiny percentage of companies. But you will continue to notice them. And the community part runs deeper. It really comes down to Connecticut. I started Impact Growth Partners in 2017. In 2019, I did a presentation. I really launched in 2018. In 2019, I did a similar meeting at the Patagonia store when there were only 3 certified B Corps in Connecticut. And part of my goal was to grow that community. And now we have 33 certified B Corps, and we do a lot of events together, and both educational, networking, learning about the community, and helping with business practices. So you may recognize some of these logos, and as you can see, the industries really range from food products like Aloha bars and a bakery to financial services, a construction company, a publishing company. Really is a very diverse group of companies. And to dive down even further, I'm going to share our Westport area, our hyper-local B Corp community. So hopefully those of you who are in Westport, which I think most of you are, have seen a lot of these companies. Mine's Impact Growth Partners. You'll meet Phil and Heidi from Grounded World. Earth Animal is technically in Southport, but since their store here is in Westport, I count them as Westport. Westport Family Dental, the dentist who runs that, has amazing recycling programs and other standards that have helped her meet certification. FoundHer is a recruiting company, and Kane Footwear is based here as well. Haven, who you'll meet Felicia from Haven shortly, is based in Darien, and Grace Farms is in New Canaan. Invest Asset Management is in Ridgefield. Bigelow Tea, who I'm sure you all know, you may not have known, it's a B Corp. They're right down the road in Fairfield. And then Athletic Brewing is right up the road in Milford, also a certified B Corp. And Nantucket Spider, the bug spray that you see at ASF, is based in Wilton and also a B Corp. So with that, I'm going to invite my panelists to come up who are going to share a lot more interesting insights on really what it means to be a B Corp and a benefit corporation. And while I'm doing that, I wanted to introduce my colleague, Carrie McDevitt. So part of the local community is Be Local Connecticut. All 33 Connecticut B Corps are involved. And she's just going to come up and introduce herself and tell you about an event coming up next week. Not done yet.
Hi, everybody. I'm Carrie. I'm also a resident of Westport, so it's so exciting to be here. Yes, you're all invited. Next week, we have a Be Local Connecticut. Jen was saying that one of the benefits of becoming a certified B Corp is the community, and we do have what's called a Be Local Connecticut. We have an event next Wednesday, October 2nd, right in Fairfield. It's going to be a beautiful outdoor event that's going to be basically in support of Connecticut Food Share. So a little bit of information will be shared about food insecurity right here in Fairfield County and even right here in Westport. So we do hope you'll come. Please go to the Be Local Connecticut website. It's B, just the letter B, localconnecticut.org, and you can sign up. It's going to be a great event next Wednesday. Thank you.
Thank you, Carrie. So Carrie and I are here in Westport. We also have a team member in Vermont, another in Texas. So if you do have any other questions, there are our email addresses. Feel free to reach out to us. And I think what Carrie and I would both say is the best thing about our jobs is not just the interesting stuff we learn about and interacting with B Lab and helping grow the movement. It's really the people we work with. Every CEO we work with who wants to pursue B Corp certification is passionate and leads with integrity and really leads for the long term. So I'm really excited to introduce this great panel. Our moderators are Phil White and Heidi Schoeneck of Grounded World, Westport-based. Adam Thatcher, Grace Farms Tea and Coffee in New Canaan. Felicia Rubenstein, Haven and Darien. And Mike Hermes, Hale Spring PBC, Public Benefit Corporation, right here in Westport. So thank you guys so much. I look forward to hearing it.
See if this is working. Oh, it is. The bright lights keep making me think we're going to be jumping into song and dance here in a minute. Maybe we'll hold on to your seats. You did thank HSS that you can actually walk up to this.
Thank you, HSS, for my new knee, by the way.
There.
It's working really well. Thank you very much.
So maybe the dancing, not so much tonight. But really grateful to be here with everyone tonight, and so excited to work with these phenomenal panelists. I'll just tell you a smidge about Grounded. We are a social innovation and brand activation agency, which sounds like a lot of words. Frankly, what it means is we market and help partner, sometimes consult with brands and businesses, nonprofits that are trying to make a difference in the world positively. So putting it in a little nutshell, which I am basically, a little nutshell. And maybe to help you understand a little bit more about what we do, I'll just tell you a very short story. A wise mentor, speaking of mentoring, told me once, people don't remember always the facts, but they'll remember a story. So I'll tell you how we founded Grounded. So Phil and I have long storied histories in this crazy world of advertising, which basically means we have stock in all of the big holding companies and we'll never retire because it'll never be worth anything. So we basically had to start our own thing in order to do so. But what inspired us is one night we were sitting at one of those big advertising award shows. So with the fancy dresses, the really rubber chicken, lots of champagne. And after we were representing the Unilever business, which we led across all of North America, and I led the creative side and Phil was on the strategic business side of the business, I must have gone up and down on that stage 100 times. And I was waiting for my Scarlett Johansson moment to make that graceful stumble. But did manage to make my way through. And what we had found while eating our rubber chicken was that we actually had helped Unilever become Marketer of the Year that year. We basically won every category we entered. We had all of the trophies sitting on the table, and our leadership across WPP came and patted us on the back and celebrated what a great job we had done. And when I look back at a photo of that night, it looks like someone punched us in the stomach. We did not look happy and celebratory, and I could blame the chicken. But in reality, I think we were done. Like there was no more energy to be excited about another award and another lovely bottle of Dove body wash, which is great, being sold, across the country. So the next day, after we kind of got over our moment, we met down the street from the agency, which is what you do at the bar, when you're midday in advertising, to understand why we were still not feeling elated from this moment. This should be the time to get that resume out, to ask for more money, to go get that promotion. And we had decided, with all the great work we were doing with Unilever and working with Paul Pullman and the Sustainable Living Plan, is our work was just doing this much good in the world, this much. And we didn't want to just do this much. We knew the power of these brands and these businesses was instrumental in making the world transform in the direction we wanted it to transform. So we said at that moment, at that little bar, that we wanted to start a company. And if we did, we'd call it Grounded, because it would be standing with one foot in purpose and one in profit. And upon that foundation, we would stand up and reach for the stars. So at that moment, Grounded was born. And that's when we decided to create our exit plan and run for the hills and focus on building a business that was focused on helping brands do right by the world. So, is that good enough for you, Phil?
Very good. And then we discovered that there's a whole movement called B Corps that are already doing that. So we're like, well, if we can't beat them, I guess we have to join them, don't we, basically?
We had to join them.
That's kind of how it all
Yes,
came
good.
around.
Yep. So shall I jump in with some of the first
Please do.
introductions across our panelists? So I think what we'll do is, on this one, just work down in order. So you get to go first, Adam. And another wise person told me, you don't ask people to hold too many thoughts in their heads. So I'm going to give you 3 things to answer. One is, please introduce yourself. Second thing, please tell us a bit about your business. And the third is why you became a B Corp or a benefit corporation.
Great. Hi, everyone. Adam Thatcher from Grace Farms. I'll tell a little bit about my story as well. I joined Grace Farms 10 years ago. For those of you that are not familiar, it's a cultural and humanitarian center up at the north end of New Canaan. It is a nonprofit private operating foundation. The place is free and open to the public. We have a wide range of public programming. And then the core of our humanitarian work as a nonprofit organization is to end forced labor in the building materials supply chain. So that's talking about the wood, steel, glass that makes up our libraries, hospitals, offices, et cetera. That's a simplified sort of description of what Grace Farms is. I had the pleasure of serving as Director of Operations and Sustainability for Grace Farms Foundation. And I was always very passionate about social entrepreneurship, had learned about the Sustainable Development Goals, was very excited about this roadmap for a sustainable future, learned about certified B Corps, and then ultimately was getting my MBA at NYU and came across this very small change in the IRS code that I can go into a little bit more detail later, that now said that private foundations, like Grace Farms Foundation, could own 100% of for-profit businesses. This was just a recent change, something called the Philanthropic Enterprise Act. So it seemed like all these stars were aligning, and then who would have guessed that the pandemic happens, and as a cultural and humanitarian center, we can't be open. So, I think I cooked up this crazy idea of what if we started a nonprofit-owned business with 3 goals. The first is to invite everyone to experience Grace Farms through our signature coffees and teas. For those of you that have been, I'm sure you've probably had a cup of coffee or tea there, and it's part of that experience. The second is to educate and demonstrate on ethical and sustainable supply chains. And the third is to give back 100% of those profits to supporting the work we do at Grace Farms to ending forced labor. So to answer the question about why we set it up everything as a B Corp, for us, there was 2 primary reasons. A, to be honest, it was a lifelong dream of mine to pursue something like that. And I believe that I've got sort of this 1 in a million opportunity that all the stars have aligned, that there's this incredible place, Grace Farms, that is truly aspirational, incredibly generous, and believes that we can make the world a better place. And so could we do that not just in a for-profit environment, but could we do that in a nonprofit environment? Could we do that in a for-profit environment too? So setting ourselves up as a public benefit LLC based out of the state of Delaware, but we operate out of business here in Connecticut, just seemed like a natural process for us to do that. And then we began B Corp certification as soon as we could. So, you know, we became B Corp pending first, which is in your first year of business, and then moved on to B Corp status.
Well done. Great job.
Thank you.
Hard to follow. So my name's Felicia Rubenstein, and I am the founder of Haven. We opened 5 years ago. It is a co-working space based in the heart of Fairfield County, I say. Unfortunately, we're not in Westport. I wish we were. And we have meeting rooms, private offices, co-working. We also do virtual mail, and we have amazing programming, I have to say. And it's kind of funny that it's kind of full circle here too, because I know Peter Propp from when I originally had this idea to start Haven 6 years ago. It just was an epiphany, like we need something like this. I reached out to Peter. He was running a center in Stamford, and it was closing, and I just sat with him and said, what happened, what did work, what didn't work, and then we traveled around Connecticut, and he introduced me to a whole world here in Connecticut of startups. And also sitting next to you, Adam, is when I came up with this idea, I put together a vision board and just kind of wandering around Connecticut, and I had gone to Grace Farms, and I was like, I love this place, and you were top on my vision board that I wanted Haven to look like this. So we are, again, about helping people on their personal and professional journey, and we have 4 pillars of focus at Haven. We focus on entrepreneurship, health and wellness, sustainability and social impact, and empowering women. And when that all combines is our sweet spot, and so that's first in our mind. And truthfully, I started it 8 months before COVID and pivoted quickly. And one of the first things that I was thinking about was, in my mind, it was all about sustainability and social impact. And I did not know what a B Corp was, or I thought it was a benefits corporation. And I kind of just combined this in my mind. And I reached out to the Small Business Development Center, and they started walking me through. I said, I want to become a B Corp. I said, I have time on my hands right now. So I went through that process. And we can talk about it more later, but at the same time, Jen Gorin happened to come over to Haven and meet with me to explain to me what the process was. And I hired them to help me get through it, thank God. But I am a B Corp now, one of the first in, I think there's only one in the United States that's a co-working space, but others are looking at it now. And I've just gotten my 2nd certification, so thank you for that too, which was a process we'll talk about later. But,
Congratulations.
Okay, thank you.
Great job.
Hi, everyone. My name is Mike Hermes. I am the founder and CEO of HailSpring, which is a software company aimed at the mental health ecosystem, and I'll talk a little bit more about that in a second. My personal background is I spent the early part of my career building software companies, small software companies across a number of different domains. My friends and family will probably ascribe this to ego or hubris, but I've always been attracted to big ideas that are trying to do something to change the world for the better. And my first company was the first stock exchange that allowed retail investors to trade equities after market hours to equalize the playing fields with large institutions. And then I worked for about 10 years on a software company to help with environmental compliance and environmental data management. And then I joined a company that was a great company, great team, but it didn't have the kind of mission that I was used to. And I realized I found that lacking. And at that point, I was at a kind of a juncture in my career, and I did a 180-degree turn, and I ended up working for the federal government as CTO of the U.S. Department of Homeland Security. And there I found this incredible sense of mission and purpose with no attachment to profit or revenue or any of those traditional metrics of business. And it was this amazing feeling, that I had never experienced before. Unfortunately, for a number of reasons, I could only stay there for around 5 years in the DC ecosystem. I loved it, but I came closer to home to work for the Federal Reserve Bank for a little bit, and I thought that was kind of a good hybrid, still a bit of a public impact. And then I kind of transitioned back into the private sector in a startup bank, and was straying further from the mission aspect. And I really realized that was missing for me. And that is when I met with a few of my co-founders, and we had this idea to start a company that would really do something important and meaningful, but also could create a valuable and sustainable business in our mind. And so that's why we created HailSpring, because we saw this huge opportunity to improve lots of things in the mental health ecosystem. The reason that we became a public benefit corporation and not a B Corp was very, very simple. When I didn't know much about it when I set out to do this. I used the Google machine to figure it all out, and it became very apparent to me that a B Corp is a lot of work. As I think Jen just outlined, it's a lot of work, right? And it's good work, and it's for good reason. And so, of course, a B Corp means more, it signifies more, but one of the things that our startup has to be, it's kind of in our DNA, is lean, right? We have to be as lean as possible at all times until we get to the point where we're generating revenue and we can invest in other things. So the ability to signal and commit to a public benefit without having to invest a ton of time and money, that is what the Delaware Public Benefit Corporation allowed us to do. And we have a benefit statement in our charter. It says we are going to improve the mental health ecosystem through technology and data. And that shows, and we are required to pursue that goal, as a fiduciary responsibility, as a director and an executive. And we're also required to balance, just like a B Corp, to balance the interests of our customers, our employees, and other people that we impact. So for me, that was the right level of effort to be able to get that benefit, and it's working for us so far.
That's great. Thank you.
So Mike, I'd just like to jump on something you said there, because it just triggered a thought. So running a business is hard work. Of course it is. It's hard work for anybody. But then aspiring to get B Corp certification is also a whole nother level of work. And I won't deny it's really hard. It takes a lot of time and a lot of focus and a lot of dedication. So I'm kind of interested, getting down to the really reals, guys. How did you find that process? What's it like going through the B Corp certification process, and what challenges did you uncover as you went through it? Felicia, do you want to go?
Sure, I'll start. So I entered it not knowing, as I mentioned before, what was involved. And I started with the SBDC, and they sat down and we did an assessment, and you have to get a minimum of 80 points. So we kind of went through all these questions, a lot of questions. And then actually going through the assessment, it's great because it makes you really think about your business. And I had only been 8 months into my business. But it also makes you feel really bad because there's all these things that you're not doing. But again, it gets you jump-started. So that was the first step. And then you have to start gathering all the documentation. And I worked, luckily one of my members, who's also on my advisory board, Alexis Brooks, is a lawyer. And so she helped me along with Carrie and Jen going through this process of gathering all the documentation and getting organized. And then you have to get it all online. And again, this was about a 6-month process to go through all of this. And I had no clue what I was getting into when I started it. And I was telling Carrie, like, she had talked me off the ledge so many times. I'm like, why am I going through this? But, in the end, when you're done with it, it's definitely worth it. But what happens once you submit all the documentation, then you get someone, I forget what it's called, an analyst, yes, to go through all your documentation. And then I said it's like doing laundry all the time, because every time I thought that I was done with answering some questions, the next week they would come back with more questions and more documentation you had to do. And it was always when the worst possible times. But so we went through all of that. And then once we got through all the documentation, I have great materials and documentation about my company now, which I'm very proud of. And then we just celebrate at the end when you've gone through it.
Well
But it's once you're through it, I mean, the process, then meeting all the community is what is fantastic. And it's so worth it. So, and like I said, I just went through, it's every 3 years, and we just went through the second one, and on September 20th, it was announced that I got recertified, so.
Congratulations.
Yeah,
Congratulations. Well done. Well, I hear you on the laundry, because as Heidi can testify, I hate laundry. There's nothing worse than laundry, so I'm completely with you on that.
And there's always more.
And
There's always more.
And you always lose a sock. Adam, what about you? How's it been?
Sure. So because we started and we knew we wanted to be a certified B Corp, it really helped form the company and the way that we would act. So to give you some examples of what some of these credits are, how you gain points. So in the governance category, for example, it might be about how you are legally structured, and do you give back a certain percentage of profits back to your employees, for example. Under workers, it could be, do you offer health benefits? Do you offer a certain time off? Maternity plans? Environment could be, are you sourcing organic ingredients versus not organic ingredients? So and then once you open up that question, then there's about 20 other questions behind that, and you have to provide proof for each of those. So for us, as we started, as mentioned, we were in this B Corp pending status, so it was very aspirational, like, okay, we definitely want to do this, like, okay, that's great, but at the same time, too, we're a startup, and so, starting as a very small group, a company of one, was, do we have to offer health benefits to myself? Luckily, I'm able to get them through my wife. So we didn't get points for those certain things, but we said as the company grows and we need to be able to attract new talent, that these are things that we will then begin to layer on. So that sort of like, we knew our points would only go up over time. And so where I think our initial point score was at, maybe it was like a 120, which is very, very high. We're like, wow. But then, we went through the actual certification process after being in business for a year, and we ended up, I think, at a 102.8, which is still very, very good. And so as we went through that process, I don't recommend anyone try to go through that process by yourself. There are coaches. Impact Growth Partners is one of those, and I don't know any others, so I wouldn't even suggest going to anyone else. You've got all this talent here in your community if you're thinking about doing this. And Jen, Rebecca, Carrie, they're super, super talented, and they can help you just analyze, is this the right move for you? Do you want to invest the time into it? The investment of money is paltry compared to what you will get out of it. So just think of it that way for having that consultation. And then in the end, right, I don't think we've fully maximized the community advantage that there is available in the B Corp world. To be perfectly honest, right, we're trying to deliver tea and coffee and grow and grow and grow, and I wish I could be zooming out, but when you're growing quickly, you're just sort of okay, what's put the cash in the drawer and get the next tea order, and let's keep moving. So I think that there's a whole world of B Corp advantages that we have yet to even scratch into, which I'm really excited about as we continue to go.
Totally agree.
Thanks, Adam. Mike, is it any different as a benefit corporation? So when you kind of hear the stories from Adam and Felicia about some of the kind of struggles of certification, and there are struggles, let me tell you, It's all worth it in the end, of course. Is it the same being a benefit corporation? What kind of standards do you hold yourself to internally?
Yeah, no, I think it validates my decision at this point. The reality is that it's very different, right? Our only legal requirement is to report biannually to our stockholders, not even to the public, about progress we're making on our stated public benefit. And so, of course, right now we're a very closely held company, so that's not a very big encumbrance at all. I mean, again, the whole reason we did this was because this business was started with the intent to do good, to make an impact and in a positive way, beyond simply making money. So of course, everything we do kind of works towards that goal. But we're so early and so small still that, things like how we handle employee benefits and governance and sourcing material, like we don't source anything. So it's very simple for us right now. But we of course hold ourselves to a high standard of integrity, and we believe that everything we do is balancing both the goals of our shareholders as well as the goals of all of our stakeholders and our public benefit. I will say that one thing I didn't mention, our core business, right, is building software to help mental health professionals and patients and families kind of communicate and collaborate. And as such, it has to be HIPAA compliant. Many of you are familiar with that. And unfortunately, being HIPAA compliant is a very significant burden that requires a similarly huge, maybe even larger investment in kind of time and effort and sometimes money to make sure that your security and your privacy controls and all that across your entire software and data management platform are very, very tight. And so we have to focus any spare energy that we have that's not building the product, marketing the product, selling the product, basically has to go into maintaining HIPAA compliance. So right now, we just don't have the bandwidth to do all the things that these fine folks over here are doing. However, at some point, if we have the luxury, I would love to be able to do that.
Right. Yeah, so we talk a lot about balancing purpose and profit. That's language we use with our clients too, because it's a bit of a fine line. And I know we've talked a lot about the commitments and the time commitment it takes and energy to get the B Corp certification. So I'm really curious about how you guys find striking that balance between the financial demands of running a business with the social and environmental commitments of being a B Corp. So I don't know, Felicia, if you want to take it, or Adam first, or?
I'll give it a go.
Good.
I'll actually share the story that I shared with you before.
Oh, really? You're going to?
Yeah, why not?
We're in a safe place.
We're in a safe place. But no, but in reality, these are some of the crossroads that any entrepreneur, business leader is gonna face. So we have an opportunity to gain a very large contract for a very large hotel group and continuing to grow. However, they've already invested a tremendous amount of money in K-cup machines in all of their hotel rooms. And from the beginning, it was like, that would just never make sense for us. Like, why would we ever do K-cups? I just can't imagine, you can grind great coffee at your house and do a pour over machine. And it never really came into my mind that, as it turns out, food service turns out and corporate partnerships turns out to be the best avenue for our business, because while we can go out and preach our message to one consumer at a time who is very fickle and has a million options out there, we've found that corporate partnerships are really powerful and meaningful. They enjoy, A, the product is better than what they're currently offering. B, it has an amazing story behind it. They can think about it as part of their charitable giving and checking off a number of ESG checkboxes, right? So along comes a hotel group that says, like, we love this story. This is great. We'd love to, this is a fantastic way for us to achieve our goals of inviting everyone to experience Grace Farms. So we're at this crossroads, and I've wrestled with this, and I was just sharing with Heidi that in the end, I sit there and I say, well, there's going to be a K-cup going into that K-cup machine. Whether or not that K-cup has just whatever kind of coffee that was probably sourced from some large coffee plantation, or it can be the coffee that we source exclusively from women-led co-ops, is organic, is Fair Trade International certified, and is ultimately giving back the profits to helping end forced labor, like, that might be the best K-cup that exists. So if we can create the best K-cup that exists, then we're gonna do it, right? And so those are some of like those struggles that you face between like purpose and profit, because in the end, right, you don't have a business unless you can get it to profitability. So otherwise you're just doing a nonprofit, or just it's an expensive hobby. So yeah, I think that might be a good example of some of the things that you'll cross if you choose to go down this path. And just be really careful. Like, it's one thing to put your like principles up high on a pedestal, like that is okay, but don't put your pride higher than that, because the market will set you straight.
That's a great analogy. I guess maybe that is why I'm so short. But so I'm curious though, Felicia, if I look at it differently than the purpose-profit balance, I think there's an impact around culture that probably the certification has. And I know culture is so important. When you talked about Grace Farms on that vision board, how has the certification influenced your company culture?
Yeah, in terms of culture, it's always on my mind, and in the community that we build, we have about 25 people in our organization. We have about 250 members, and 25 groups are sustainable focus, and so we have a special interest group for them. And we do events around that, and I see some of the people here that are part of Haven membership. In fact, tomorrow night we have an event about stories and startup sustainable stories, yes. And we have 3 people presenting in that area just about their stories and how they became sustainable businesses. So pulling the culture together, and it's just that authenticity and everybody caring in the same way is important.
Yeah.
And also just the way that I've created the space, I think about that it's sustainable. We have 70 solar panels on our ceiling, and we try to have like some of the members of the B Corporation in our space, like Grace Farms Tea and Good Sam's Coffee. They actually have offices in our space. And so all sorts of things to just gather people together.
No, that's lovely.
But, yeah.
Mike.
Yes.
We're going to tack a little bit, if that's all right, because
I'll accept it.
amongst all of these startups and hungry entrepreneurs, investment is always an issue, right? No matter where you are on your journey, I would imagine. So what has the reaction from the investment community been to your benefit corporation status?
Yeah, so it is a great question. I think certainly one that anybody who is an entrepreneur, needs to consider kind of how that plays with the investment community. So I think, and on that regard, of course, a B Corp is different from a benefit corp, although there's that overlap. Look, the bottom line is, I think, I don't think how the investment community reacts should be the definitive reason you do or do not become a benefit corporation, but it's worth thinking about. Our experience, and again, we're early stage, right? We're just at, we're launched, but in a kind of a beta early user access mode, so we're still pre-revenue effectively. So we haven't really gone hard after institutional money yet, but we had a lot of conversations with early stage institutions and professional angels. And look, the reaction, it runs on a large spectrum from, that's amazing, right? Like, I love that, the fact that you're committed to doing something. Of course, our very business is clearly an impact business. So the fact that we're a PBC maybe for us is a little bit less differentiated. But on the other end, it's like, oh, wait, I've never invested in a public benefit corporation before. And the reality is that if you've ever solicited investment from professionals before, look, they don't need a lot of reason to say no. No is a lot more common than yes. A lot more common than yes. And unfortunately, there's a lot of things that investors can use to narrow their pool. And for some folks, if they just aren't familiar with it, aren't comfortable with it, it may be something they use simply to say, you know what, that's great, but we're not investing if you're not a straight C Corp or something that we already understand. I think that's the minority, and I think it is changing and evolving over time. The reality is that impact and that commitment to impact delivers a bit of a halo effect across a number of areas, right? Attracting talent and with customers. And so from that perspective, at the end of the day, the investors want to make money. And if you can convince them that, look, being a benefit corporation is in the best interest of the business and will help you be successful and help make them money, then that's all they need to hear.
Well, then why not? Yeah, no, well said.
Okay.
I was just about to do a time check. Are we there?
It's time for Q&A.
I was going to say, there's a voice coming from
It's
somewhere.
me.
that I can't.
It's me, your friend
there he is.
Peter.
Over there.
Actually, before we jump off that subject, I just want to point out one thing about benefit corporations and part of the advantage to benefit corporation and why they were ultimately started is that if you are a benefit corporation, then you have a legal grounding that you don't have to only act in the best interest of the shareholder. So you don't have to sell your company to the highest bidder. You can sell your company to a lower bidder, but will lead the company on the continued mission that you established. So it's also just one of those things to think about as you're thinking succession planning long term. You know, sometimes that may scare a certain investor, right? It says like, whoa, I just want to be able to like maximize return. But also, is that who you really want to be surrounding yourself with? That doesn't sound like the kind of investor that you want to be like barking down your neck about every single decision you make. So,
Yes,
yeah.
great, Bill.
Okay, I would welcome people to come up with questions, and if you have a question, just wait right here, and I'll ask the first one. To ask the question, you have to stand here because you have to be on the camera so people can see you, and they need to be able to hear you through the microphone. My question is not for Mike, who doesn't yet have customers, but the other two. Can you give examples of customers who have chosen to be a customer of yours, mainly because or partially because of your B Corp status?
I definitely have gotten customers because of this. There's people that are from actually Europe that will only rent our space when they come over because we are a B Corp. They try to be among other B Corp groups.
Yeah. Should we keep going, or I didn't want to?
Answer.
I'll jump in. Okay, because we found that it shortchanges the new business pipeline, or shortens the new business pipeline tremendously when it's another B Corp, because immediately you know your values aligned. So all of that kind of, posturing and pandering and kind of trying to get to the really reals, you just cut that off at the knees because everyone has gone through that tremendously rigorous process. So you kind of meet at a very fair equilibrium and then get to talk about what really matters, which is the job you're going to do together. So it's been tremendously helpful for us in terms of new clients.
Hi, Jack Sousa with Wigan and Dana. I actually was today years old when I realized I'm a mentor at the February event, so looking forward to seeing some people here. In the spirit of Mike Greenberg, who was here a few months ago, I'll give a comment and a question. So my quick comment is, if you're looking for investors who are excited about certified B Corps, talk to the people that have been investing in Athletic Brewing. They've raised a large amount of money, and so it's not necessarily the exception than the rule now. My question is, so you talked about investors. That's one key piece for entrepreneurs and founders thinking about this type of stuff. The other is exit strategy. So you all are relatively early on. I'd be fascinated to hear what you thought about for potential exits someday, maybe, and how this certified B Corps and benefit corporations affected your thoughts on that process.
So a great question, great point. I'll just give a quick thought on that. I think the reality is actually, for a public benefit corporation, a Delaware PBC at least, you have all the same options and the same patterns and same paths that a traditional corporation has. I think the biggest difference is exactly what we just talked about here, which is that you have more flexibility to choose, prioritize potentially a strategic buyer that is more aligned to your values and will take the business where you want to take it, as opposed to getting, no offense to anybody in the room, but picked up by a PE firm who just wants to squeeze the last bloody dollar out of it, right? So I think the reality is that that is something, of course, we haven't thought through a whole lot yet, but anybody who builds a company like this that has an impact is going to want to, if they exit it, right, is going to want to see it go somewhere where that mission and that impact is continued. Hopefully that aligns with the best bid as well, but not always. So I think for us as a software company, our path is similar. It's going to be similar to normal software startups. We get traction, we get institutional capital, we grow. Either we get big enough that we can go public. That's not likely, but it's possible. Or we get bought by somebody bigger, and that's how it's going to go for us, hopefully.
I'm a super unique situation. Yeah. So I won't even get into it.
Phil, don't you want to?
Yeah, it's actually something when we started Grounded, we thought about this right from the outset. And what we've decided to do is actually kind of think about it more like a legacy. So we want actually our team to inherit the company. So our structure is to basically go through a very, well, hopefully not that long, because I'm not sure I've got a lot left in me. But anyway, for a few years, yes, anyway, go through a process where we're handing the reins over to the team so that they can actually acquire full ownership. And they have equity, synthetic equity and equity interests already. So, you know, there's employer-owned schemes now where you can gradually transition ownership of the company over to your team. So I think within the next probably 5 years, and that's maybe
2 hours?
2 hours. Yeah, exactly. That's what we'd like to do. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, and on my end, right now I have one Haven, and I've proven the model and created all the back end. I am announcing that I'm opening a second Haven in Greenwich. Yeah. Yeah. So I just signed a lease. We're still kind of doing a little final things, but the idea is maybe to have 3 along the 95 corridor, and then hopefully someone will look at me at some point too. Yeah.
That's great. Love it.
Hi, everyone. Really inspiring to hear your stories. I'm looking at this from wanting to join an organization that's doing impactful work. So what advice would you have for someone who's researching, looking into companies that they would want to work for? Do you look at the financials, the marketing, the legal documents? I've obviously learned a lot tonight, but I'd love to hear more.
I'll give you an initial reaction, and then I'm sure there'll be lots of different answers. If you're looking to work for an impactful business, it can't hurt to look at B Corps near you. So I would look for that certification, and of course the benefit corporations as well. And then we get reach outs from people constantly that are emailing us directly through our website, and we field every one of them. And the ones that have grabbed my attention the most are ones that recognize the mission. So I'd say look at the purpose or the mission of the organization. They recognize that. They talk about what they've studied or what they're interested in and how that aligns, and are just open to learning more as to either if there's a position or if there's an opportunity or if we know someone that might be able to connect. And in most times, we're either connecting them to another company that is hiring, or we take on interns, and other groups do, to try to help give them some of that opportunity if we're not hiring at that specific moment. So I think B Corps, because we're people worker oriented, will try to facilitate a little bit of that dialogue and kind of help network and mentor their way through.
I would say certainly looking at B Corps would be a great way to narrow the pool, and like you can get a lot of information. You know, any corporation that has gone through that process really has some significant commitment to that. I will say though that, look, unfortunately the reality is that you can put a lot of things on paper, you can go through certifications, and you can do all this and get a great score, and at the end of the day, what you find when you land on the ground, working with the people and the leadership there, might not be as advertised. And the only way, and by the way, there's a lot of things that go into finding a place that will make you happy to work, and the do-good aspect is probably one part of that, but not the only part of it. So obviously talking to the people that you're gonna be working with is key, but I will say one trick that I've learned, I wish I'd used more because I've been burned a couple times. If you can talk to not only the people that work there, maybe not all the people that they introduced you to, but people who work there that you haven't been introduced to, people who used to work there, and see if you can get a real sense, and not somebody who was, had a bad relationship, but to get a sense of the culture and the leadership and the personalities, because ultimately that's going to be a big part of what makes you happy or unhappy.
Yeah, great advice.
This is the last question. Sorry.
He's very strict.
I'm always the last guy. Jeff Sears, I've been in tech for 25 years. Now I'm an advisor and investor in AI startups. But I spent a lot of time working with Salesforce. And Salesforce was, if I understand it correctly, Benioff, when they founded this company, did this thing called Pledge 1. And it's a 1-1-1 model. 1% of the revenue, 1% of the product, and 1% of the company's time volunteered to organizations to make it a more equitable, sustainable world. So even if you aren't a B corporation, you can adopt the theme of being, doing good for all stakeholders, right? So the question is, with that background is you know, not having to jump through all the hoops to get a B certification, you can still be a pledge one or something along that line to giving away your time of your employees, to volunteer, to your product, to your equity, and achieve similar objectives. So I'd kind of like to hear your perspective on the benefits of, you know, what should we do? Should we just be a C corporation and do the good stuff? Or is it really worth it to go through all this certification process just to do the good stuff?
I find the companies that do that are good at giving away things when it's good times, you know? And it's one of the things that falls off the radar as soon as the volunteer fad has passed or the DEI fad has passed or whatever. And if you bake it into your operating agreement that this is what we're gonna do, you can't walk away from it. You're legally obligated to. So that's my thought on it. There are a lot of amazing companies out there that do incredible amount of charitable giving. And I'm not gonna say that every single B Corp is the most perfect company in the world. It's not, right? There are certain companies, and this is what Jen was saying, why they're changing some of the certification process, that can pick up a lot of points because they give great benefits to white-collar workers in New York City, but their supply chain is a mess. And so it's like and that's part of the iteration of how the certification should evolve and get better. So, you know, I think it's just a matter of accountability and sustainability to your commitments.
The other thing I would say is, like any other framework like this, whether it's ISO something or some other framework, not only does this measure and monitor how you perform, it also gives you a guidance on how to be better, right? So if you go through this process and you follow this framework and you use this framework to assess yourself, you're going to be more disciplined about doing good and being better in your operating organization. So I think adopting these frameworks, if you really, really want to be the best organization you can be in this regard, helps you get there, not just measures you and shows off your achievement.
And I agree. And every vendor that I pick, every person I hire, the members that join my community, I think about that and get reminded when I get recertified as well. It's deep in the heart of the space.
And I would just say, if you want to get your toes wet a little bit before you go full B Corp boat, maybe consider joining the 1% for the Planet community, because you can actually, as the name suggests, donate 1% of your revenue every year. But being part of that community and networking with other organizations, you start to kind of get a bit of a sense of how those organizations work and what the community feels like. And then if you feel comfortable doing that on an annual basis and you feel that meets, you're able to fulfill that obligation, then that's sometimes a nice stepping stone into going for being a B Corp.
All right, thank you very much.
Okay.
Thank you.
That wraps it up, folks. Thank you very much. Thank you to our panelists. Thank you to everyone who's been here tonight. We really appreciate it. Feel free to hang out and network for a little bit. I would ask you, if you see any empty cups like your own, put it in the trash, because the library needs to shut down soon. Thank you.